How's it going, my friends? This is going to be my SR tier list. Keep in mind these are based on my personal experience after playing the game for almost a year now. This might be a long one, timestamps in the description to help you find what you're looking for. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so we're starting off with tanks again. First up we got Cait. Now Cait is, in my opinion, one of, if not the best tank in the game, along with Strong. Her Bloodthirsty perk gives her a lot of survivability, Dexterity gives her increased dodge rate, which in this game is slightly overpowered if you ask me. These two perks combined can buy you a lot of precious time in combat. Her ability is an AoE, which also stuns all those who are hit, and that can sometimes catch an opponent who is out of position or disable an enemy's ability. Note that the Bloodthirsty perk also applies to her ability. She's great for both PvP, PvE, and guild boss. Using the word great might be an understatement there. She is a human though, which means she is vulnerable to radiation. Still, her kit overall is super useful and effective in almost all scenarios, and that is why she deserves to be the S if not A tier at least. Alright, our boy Dogmeat is up next. Just like Cait, Dogmeat also has the Dexterity perk that gives him increased dodge rate. His second perk, Bite Attack, not only does it deal damage to the target but also reduce their damage by 15%, and also make them bleed. His ability is the same as his Bite Attack perk, but it targets the furthest unit instead, which generally tends to be your attackers, meaning Dogmeat can single-handedly take down an enemy attacker under the circumstance which he is strong enough, but at minimum he could deal a substantial amount of damage and lower the enemy's attack damage. Dogmeat is vulnerable to radiation though, but still a solid tank slash assassin, viable in PvP and PvE, but would recommend using him as a secondary tank just because with his Dexterity perk alone he just doesn't have enough survivability unless he is massively stronger than your foes, and that's why I'm going to put him in the A tier. Alright, so Star Paladin Cross from Fallout 3 is up next. Her perks are mediocre, nothing too special. One gives her more HP, one gives her more physical defense. Ability wise, her ability deals surprisingly more damage than I thought, but it doesn't come with any additional effect unfortunately. Even though she wears power armor, she takes full radiation. For PvP and PvE, I'll rather use something else like probably Sturgis instead of her, and which is why I have to put her in the D tier. Alright, up next is Tinker Tom. Now Tinker Tom has the same perks as Star Paladin Cross, but Tinker Tom's ability is actually not too shabby, as it reflects 50% of the damage taken back to its attacker, and it can benefit from his perk as well, as having more HP means he will reflect more damage back to the attacker. He does take full radiation though since he is human. He is usable for PvE, and I would use him in PvP when certain attachments are equipped, so I'm going to put him in the B tier. Alright, up next we got XPN28. In case you want to know, he's one of the two named synth that you fight in the Institute's reactor room. He has one basic perk that gives him more energy resistance, one unique perk, and this perk can be quite strong as his attack has a 25% chance to stun the enemy for 2 seconds. If you're lucky, you might just end up interrupting or disabling an opponent's ability, and that can be quite strong in almost all scenarios. His ability only makes him tankier, but it lasts for 9 whole seconds. He is a synth, meaning he takes 50% less rats, making him an okay character for PvE. PvP wise, he could work based on his stun perk, but there are more reliable characters. I'm gonna put him somewhere between the C and B tier. Alright, so our final tank, Zeke, is a surprisingly strong character. He has the same perks as Tinker Tom, but his ability can actually benefit from having bonus HP. His ability applies a shield to all members, which reflect damage based on his max HP, and this could be quite effective against AoE damage to the point where it could potentially kill the caster. He does take full radiation though since he is human. Still, I think he is quite capable for PvP and PvE, and with that, I'm going to put him on the A tier. Alright, up next we got the healers. First up we got Curie. She's pretty much an SR version of Ali in my opinion. Her medical talent perk heals all members 4 times every 20 seconds, which is a lot of healing. Her ability is the same as Ali but slightly better. It basically heals your whole team once. Unfortunately, she doesn't have any rat removing ability. Herself is a synth though, meaning rats won't be as big of a problem for her at least. She is viable for PvP and PvE, but I see her more as a PvP character, and with that, I'm going to put her in the B tier. Alright, so Dr. Amari. Amari is a very unique healer in that her Collect Memory perk does remove a percentage of your team's current rat level every 12 seconds. She then absorbs 20% of the rats removed from your team and puts it on herself. then your team takes reduced damage for 6 seconds, which is pretty good based on her current rat level. Now this might sound weird, but her second perk, Bitter Memory, gives her a percentage based damage reduction for every 1% radiation owned. And to top that off, her ability removes all radiation from herself and heals everyone on your team, and the effectiveness of her heal increased based on how much radiation was removed from herself, essentially converting radiation into more healing. And this makes her pretty good in PVE and okay for PvP. That's because there aren't that many radiation that you can encounter or get in PvP, and even so, redirecting a lot of radiation towards herself can be risky. But based on her kit alone, I'll say she deserves somewhere between the A and B tier. Alright, so our second doctor in the house, that will be Dr. Li. She has one basic perk that gives her more HP, one healing perk which heals all members of your team 3 times every 21 seconds. Her ability summons a Mr. Handy, which then heals all team members twice, with a pause in between each heal, but more importantly, each heal also removes 50% of your dweller's current rat level, making her just as good as Amari, if not better. And this should be a go-to PvE healer for those who doesn't own Scribe and Naraya. PvP wise, she could work based on her healing perk alone. Overall, I'll still put her on the A if not S tier, just because she doesn't necessarily have to put herself at risk like Dr. Amari. Alright, up next we got Father Clifford from Fallout 3. He has one basic perk that gives him more energy resistance. His other perk is good in that he heals the member with the lowest HP and gives them a percentage based damage boost for 10 seconds. His ability is pretty good as well, despite not being able to control our abilities in PvP. Not only does it heal all team members, but also provides them with a 30% damage reduction for 6 seconds. If you're lucky, this could be extremely powerful. I would consider using him as a PvP healer. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any ability to remove radiation, meaning it will be a problem in PvE. Now this one's just as tough. I'll rank him somewhere between the A and B tier. I'll leave him here for now, I guess. Alright, so Jack Cabot. Jack Cabot also has the same perks as Father Clifford, with one difference, that being Jack has bonus physical defense perk instead of Father Clifford's energy resistant perk. Jack Cabot's ability heals the member with the lowest HP for a substantial amount. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any method of removing a radiation. He is usable, but I'll suggest looking for a better alternative, which is why I'm going to put him in the C tier. Alright, so our final healer is Knight Captain Cade from Fallout 4. One of his perk, Fast Healing, heals all team member and boosts your AP for 20% every 20 seconds, which is really good. The other perk gives him more energy resistance. His ability heals the member with the lowest HP, removing all of their radiation, and heals for an additional 15% of their max HP for 5 seconds. A solid single unit ability. Overall, a good healer, but radiation can still be a problem, as he can only help out one member at a time, which is why I'm going to put him in the B tier. Alright, now on to the support. A lot of supports are SR characters, surprisingly. First up, we got Bobby No-Nos. Alright, so Bobby No-Nos has one basic perk that gives her more damage attribute. Her second perk is pretty good. Her ability is great though. Not only is it an AoE that is guaranteed to hit everyone, it also silences them for 4.5 seconds, meaning they cannot cast their ability during that period. Interestingly, you can actually interrupt or disable enemy abilities which are in the middle of casting, so for instance such as Carrington's. She is a ghoul, meaning full immunity to radiation, which is fantastic for PvE. PvP wise, she is also capable due to her silence effect and her AoE ability. Overall, she is more in the category of support who can deal a lot of damage with a crowd control, which is why I'll put her in the A tier. Alright, up next is Captain Kell. He has two basic perks which gives him more damage attribute and HP. His ability is okay. It randomly attacks twice and reduces the target's physical defense for 7 seconds. Only physical defense, unfortunately, but it can be more effective when the majority of your opponents are KO'd. He is human, meaning radiation can still be a problem. Overall, a solid character, but he could be better if his ability also reduces energy resistance, as he is a energy attack based character. With that, I'm going to put him in the B tier. Alright, up next we got Irma. She has the same perks as Captain Kell, that being more HP and damage attribute. Her ability, which also stuns the enemy's backline for 2 seconds, is quite useful due to the possibility of interrupting or disabling an enemy in PvP. She is quite capable for PvE as well, such as guild boss or any regular dungeon. Still, I'm gonna put her somewhere between the A and B tier just for the effectiveness of her ability. Alright, next we got Magnolia. She has 2 defense perk, which gives her more physical defense and HP. Her ability provides a increased crit rate and critical damage for your whole team for 11 seconds, which is really long. She should be paired up with characters that are more crit dependent or crit focused to fully utilize her effectiveness, so characters such as MacCready or the Zetan. Under the situation where your team is more crit focused, she can be quite strong in PvP and PvE, so if you're not running a team that is slightly crit focused or crit dependent, she's just not worth your time. Oh, and she is a synth, meaning she takes 50% less rats. I mean, if you pair her up with other characters that are more crit dependent or crit focused, I'll definitely put her in the A tier as well. But solely based on her kit alone, I'll say she deserves the B tier because it's right in the middle. Alright, up next we got the author of the Wasteland Survival Guide, that'll be Moira Brown. She has 1 basic perk which gives her more HP, 1 other perk which is pretty strong and is kinda like a meaty version of Dogmeat's ability without the bleed effect. The strong part being it targets the furthest unit and it reduces their damage by 15%. Her ability is exceptional. On top of dealing an AoE damage, it also decreases your opponent's damage and hit rate for 6 seconds, which is effective against any characters in general. Lowering a hit rate also helps dealing with criticals from crit based characters. She is a human, keep that in mind, but I'll say she's more effective in PvP despite not being able to control your ability. Now this one's also kinda tough. I want to put her somewhere between the S and A tier. I guess I'll leave her in the S tier for now. Alright, up next we got Piper. Her perks are quite basic, 1 with bonus HP and the other one gives her more damage attribute, but where she truly shines is her ability. This is one of the best support abilities in the game. It gives your whole team more attack damage, attack speed, and lifesteal. More attack speed is beneficial for charging AP, lifesteal gives your team sustain and survivability, and more attack damage is great overall as it also benefits your ability. And keep in mind, with the increased attack speed you generate AP faster, meaning you can cast the ability again in a short period of time. If you want to take a full advantage of this ability, you could pair her up with characters such as the Zetan, MacCready, and other crit focused characters, but she works well with most characters in general. So despite she's a human with mediocre perks, her ability outweighs that, which is why I'll put her in the S tier just because she's great for PvE and PvP. Alright, next is Proctor Ingram. She has 1 good perk which gives everyone on your team more energy resistance. The other perk simply gives herself more HP. Her ability is pretty good as well. For 8 seconds your entire party gains increased physical defense and energy resistance. This is a fairly straightforward and useful ability which can sometimes negate a lot of damage, such as any AoE damage. She is human, meaning rats will be a problem, but she is capable for PvP and PvE, which is why I'll put her in the B tier. Alright, up next is Astlin. She's part of the Missing Patrol quest in Fallout 4. Her perks are really good, one which increase all team members damage. The other one is a extremely useful perk in PvE. Her ability randomly attacks the enemy 7 times and it deals 50% more damage to targets which are stunned, frozen, or any other effects. To take full advantage of this ability, you have to include Dweller, which has one of those effects, meaning she's semi-dependent on your party. She is human, meaning rats can be a problem. Although her perks are great for PvE, she seems too situational, which is why I'm going to put her in the somewhere between the C and B tier. Alright, up next is my favorite radio host. It's 3Dog. 3Dog has 1 good perk which gives your party more physical defense, and the other one is a basic perk which gives him more HP. His ability is underwhelming. Although he offers more defense compared to Proctor Ingram, his ability is limited to physical defense only, meaning is quite situational or limited. Human of course, meaning rats can be an issue. I'm going to put him in the C tier. Alright, so Z247 has a pretty nice perk which lowers the enemy's energy resistance. He's at a perk which gives him more damage attribute. Ability wise, it's actually quite powerful as it lowers the frontline enemy's physical and energy resistance, so it's pretty good against tanks or whichever dwellers at the front. He is a synth of course, meaning less rats, you already knew. I'll say he's capable for PvP and PvE. I'm going to put him somewhere between the A and B tier. There were a lot of supports to go through, but now we're on to the attackers. So first up we got Deacon. Deacon has the Bloodthirsty perk which gives him more sustain and survivability. His second perk gives him more crit damage. Note that Bloodthirsty does apply to crits, so if you score multiple crits, that can be quite a lot of healing. His ability targets the unit with the lowest HP, with a 50% chance of it dealing 150% damage. Deacon can sometimes turn the fight in your favor if it's a neck-to-neck battle with his Bloodthirsty perk and his ability. Rats will be a problem for him though, but he is viable in PvP and PvE. Good perks all around. Ability is quite straightforward and his DPS is quite reliable. I'll put him in the A tier. Alright, so we got MacCready from the Little Lamp-like. MacCready has the killing bonus perk, which gives him more damage for each fallen enemy and is able to stack up to 6 times, which is more effective in PvE. His second perk gives him more damage attribute. His ability also targets the unit with the lowest HP, but has a 30% chance of dealing an additional 100% damage. MacCready does have more damage in exchange for sustain compared to Deacon, and this is more noticeable in PvE when the killing bonus perk is stacked up, and the increased damage will apply to his ability. He is just as good if not better than Deacon. It all comes down to what your team need, whether that's self-sustaining DPS or more damage. I want to put him somewhere between the S and A tier to be exact. Alright, so our final dweller, the Zetan, has the same perks as Deacon, that being the Bloodthirsty perk and the increased crit damage. Again, Bloodthirsty perk applies to crits. He is a crit-centered character. His damage is solely based on his basic attack and criticals. His ability increases crit rate and crit damage, and he can be quite effective at chunking down enemies' frontline, but any damage reflecting characters such as Tinker Tom, Zeke, and the antagonizer could potentially pose a problem for him. Hopefully his Bloodthirsty perk can heal him through all the damage, and also characters with high dodge rate such as Cait and Dogmeat. Besides the exception, he alone can serve the role as a main source of DPS, and because he is an alien, he actually takes 50% less rats, making him very viable for PvP and PvE. Just as a side note, utilizing other characters to support him will greatly increase his effectiveness, so characters such as Piper and Magnolia. If you devote another dwellers to support him, the Zetan in my eyes can definitely be an S tier or A tier character, but based solely on his kit alone without considering any other factor, I would have to put him somewhere between the A and B tier. Alright, and that's it. This is my SR tier list. Like I said before, timestamps in the description in case you want to favor and come back to this video later on. I have been covering all things Fallout Shelter Online since the summer of 2019. If you're interested in Fallout Shelter Online, be sure to subscribe and like this video. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Later.